All right, so hello, I'm Murray Robinson. I have my own small consulting company called evolve.co with a zero. And I've been involved in the lean agile systems thinking community for a long time. I've been doing agile since 2004. And I also have a very strong background in business analysis, project management, general management, executive roles, small startups, giant telcos. I started my career as a software developer, so I've got a technical understanding as well. So today I'm going to talk about Agile initiative planning, and I'll just bring up a presentation and share it with you. This session is intended to go for 45 minutes. I can stay for longer at the end to take questions, but let's get into it. I'll just present. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so my motto on Agile planning is just enough planning, just in time. All right, so traditional planning is a problem. Research and my own experience shows that most organizations spend 50% of their time and 30% of their budget analyzing, designing, and planning a project before they start coding. And even then, they often go way over time and budget. So here's a typical example for a small project, $1 million project. You spend 6 months planning. This is in a traditional waterfall way. And, let's say that costs $300,000. And then you expect to spend 6 months building for $700,000 and then release it. What actually happens is that both of these things blow out. So you'll typically get the planning blows out. It'll just take longer, although you might spend the same amount of money. And then you'll find that the build blows out a lot, and so do the costs. So what is the point of all of this upfront planning if you're going to end up spending, far more than you expected on developing what you thought you were going to develop, and also taking far longer than expected? Now, this is the traditional problem of waterfall development that we all know about. And unfortunately, I'm still seeing a lot of this in the Agile community, because what's happening all too often is that big consulting firms are coming in and advising companies that they still need to do this process, but they are now going to do it in sprints. So you may have had the experience with analysis sprints, 3 months of analysis sprints, and then 3 months of design sprints, and 3 months of architecture sprints. And then you have your development sprints for 6 months, and then you have your testing sprints. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of waterfall behavior at corporates, except they're calling it Agile, and they're calling it Agile because they're just doing each function in sprints. That, I hope everybody knows that's not Agile. Okay, let's keep going. So I think the solution is continuous planning. So doing research, planning, development, and support all at the same time, all with the same team. So it's a kind of a spiral. I think this is a nice analogy for it. Ideas are coming in all the time. You're researching them, planning, developing them, and supporting them all the way through your product life cycle. Oops, went the wrong way. Okay, so if you unroll that, it looks like this: idea, research, planning, development, support. Now it's staggered because when you start a new initiative of some type, you're going to start with an idea. You're not going to be supporting it straight away because you haven't built anything. So you start with an idea, spend a bit of time on that, then you start doing some research, spend a bit of time on that, some planning, then you get into development and then support. You can't really go directly into development without doing any research or planning at all, because you need to know what it is you're going to develop before you start developing. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting a huge amount of time and effort. you should at least talk to customers, for example, and find out what they want. So unrolled, it looks like this, but you can see that in this model that you don't do your research and then stop. You're continuing to do it all the way through. So another way to look at it is a bit like this. So this is people on the vertical axis and time on the bottom axis. You need to do some research at the beginning on what customers need, market research, product research, before you can do some planning about how long it might take or what sort of budget you might need. And you need to do both those things before you can get support from your organisation to have a development team. So what I'm suggesting is that the process should work like this. You do some research quite quickly, then you expand the team a bit, you do some planning quickly, and then you get into development. And because you start off with a bit of a backlog to get going, you'll come back after a few weeks and start doing continuous research planning and development and support. Okay. So when you first start doing your product research, you only need a small team. So, I think a product owner or product manager, a business analyst and designer. And I put the customer or user in the center of this because I think that we should all be talking to our customers and users, every week throughout the process. Okay, so a very light team doing some product research, which is things like this. Generating ideas, doing market research, talking to experts in your organization or in the industry, developing a product canvas, doing a user persona, doing a customer journey, prioritizing ideas based on, doability, desirability, and feasibility. You need to organize interviews, come up with things like an elevator pitch, a mock advertisement, product storyboards, product mock-ups, and then show all this stuff to users and review with your stakeholders. So these are the sort of things I think you should be doing in product research. It's it's market research, user experience design concepts, understanding the business. So there's no software development in here yet because we don't really know what we're going to be doing. Maybe it's not even going to require software. I can come back and go through all these things in more detail at the end if you'd like to ask questions then. So it's possible to time box your research, and I think you should do it. If you go back to these sort of things above, organizations will commonly spend, months and months with large teams of people doing this sort of thing. You might have typically a user experience design team who does 3 to 6 months of this sort of work. I really don't think that's necessary. I think that you can get, 70 or 80% right very quickly within hours, just based on having the right people in the room. And then you can move on and start, mocking things up and testing them. So again, the concept is just enough planning, just in time. So what does this look like? If you have that little team, your BA, your product manager, and your user experience designer, you can do that work in 2 weeks if you time box it. And here's a plan that I've used for doing this sort of work. So you can see here we have a meeting with our business stakeholders and sponsors to talk about, just agree on what the business challenge is. Then we go through OKRs, product ideas, and those sort of things will be done with that core team of stakeholders. Then we do some market research. So we just get online and start researching things, work out some people to interview, start ringing people up and interviewing them. And we collect all of these ideas into something I call a product canvas. So I'll go to the end, which I wasn't sure whether to show this. Okay, so this is what a product canvas looks like. You can think of it as, 9 sheets of A4 paper that you put up on the wall. And as you go through your product development process, you're just adding things to these sheets of paper. So, you want to try to get all these things exactly right and then move on. We're just coming up with ideas, putting them on, testing them and updating it. So product canvas is, what's our business problem? What are our objectives? What is the market? What are the customer and user needs? What are the product solutions? What are the customer and user benefits? What are our financial benefits? What are our costs? And what are the assumptions that we're making that we need to test? Okay, so this is just a way of collecting the things that we're finding out as we're researching and planning our product. Let me go back up. All right. So I'm going to assume that you know what user personas and user journeys are. If not, you can look it up. It would take an hour to go through all that sort of things in detail. So I'm just going to do an overview. So you can develop your user persona, user journey, and recruit your participants by the end of day 2. Day 3, storyboard your solution, do elevator pitch, mock print ads, do some sort of UX mock-up, and then interview your customers or users. Now, you don't have to do it exactly like this. You don't have to do it in 2 weeks. You can take as long as you want, but I'm just saying that this is a plan that I've used that works, or versions of it that I've used that works, and it is possible to do it in a sprint. You don't have to do sprints. I don't care if you do sprints or not. I think your team should be able to do, Kanban and continuous planning. But if you wanted to do it in 2 weeks, you can do it this way. And the benefit of this approach is that it forces you to come up with ideas and solutions in short periods of time and then move on. And the reason why that's important is that there is value in, for example, let's take market research. I've said we're going to spend an afternoon doing market research. You can probably get 70 or 80% of what you need to know out of an afternoon of market research. If you then spent 6 months, you might get 95% of what you need to know. But when you start getting products into the market, you'll probably find out that there's still a fair bit of that was wrong. So it's just not worth it. You can do these things quickly. So let's do them, move on, test what we've come up with real people, and then learn from that, and then change based on what we've learned, change our hypotheses. So same thing again, week 2, we're effectively going through another cycle of the same sort of things. We're learning from our user interviews. We come up with some new ideas. We do some more research. We do some more interviews. We update our product canvas. We update our personas and user journeys. We recruit more people. We do some more storyboarding, some more mocking up. And then we get in users again, users or customers. We show them things. We get their feedback. And we come up with recommendations, and we present findings to our stakeholders. Okay, so this is research. Okay, this is what you do at the beginning of a new product or service initiative when you don't have, requirements or anything like that. This is before requirements. This is what the product people are doing. This is what the business people are doing before it ever gets to any technical people. Okay, so let's move on. So we've time boxed our research. You can try using this plan if you want. The next step is some sort of product planning. Now, it's important to do planning for a few reasons. One of them is that the people who are giving you money to pay for developers are not going to give it to you unless you have some sort of plan. So you need to be clear about your goals, your customers, your users, your market research, the benefits you're going to be delivering, and you'll get that out of your product research. And then your sponsors and stakeholders need to know approximately how big a development team do you need, how long do you need them for, basically what are they going to do, what's the plan. Nobody is going to give you any funding or any development team if you don't have that. So what we're doing now is we're just adding some more people to that little team of people who are doing research. Keep the same people. Now we're adding a software developer, a tech lead, and an agile lead. I'm using the term agile lead for a few reasons. One is that I think Scrum Master is an awful term and we should stop using it and call people Scrum coaches. The second thing is there's no need for a team like this to be doing Scrum. They could be doing continuous planning. And I think a more general term for this is agile lead. Tech lead is somebody who is just, well, we all know what a tech lead is. It's somebody who's very experienced. This word lead does not imply some sort of hierarchical authoritarian command and control system. Within this team, there's no hierarchy. Everybody is equal. It's just that they have specialties and specializations. We've got to accept that people are good at different things depending on how many years they've invested in it. And so I think that's fine to recognize it. But the team here is T-shaped. So my expectation is people have a primary skill in, say, software development, but also help out with anything else that's required. Okay. You see, I have a business analyst and a product owner. I just want to point out that a product owner is not supposed to be a business analyst. A product owner is supposed to be somebody who understands the product and works with customers and users and stakeholders and does product management and product planning, whether the product is internal or external. So what we've done here is we've quickly, within a couple of weeks, we've started off on a new product initiative. We've got 3 people. We've done some planning to understand what it is that we might be building and to get some justification for it. And now we're going to do some planning, and we've added some technical people to it and an agile lead because we're starting to get quite a lot of things to organize. Again, it's cross-functional, cross-organizational, customer and user focused. Okay, gone the wrong way. Okay, so what does product planning involve? It involves things like prioritizing features. Now, remember, we've come into this from a bit of research. We've already identified a product concept that we want to do. We've already come up with some ideas for features. So now we're going to prioritize all those, work out what our design challenge is, organize interviews with customers and users again. Then I would think that we should map out our service blueprint. Some people might know this as business process mapping. We're going to come out with our feature map, which is like it's what I would call a user story map. Develop a solution architecture, do technical investigations, come up with product storyboards, UI design, product mock-ups, interview users, do technical reviews, UX reviews, define features, estimate features, develop your release plan, your budget, and review with stakeholders. Now, again, organizations can easily spend months doing that sort of thing. I have done it in 2 weeks with a team of 6 people who are all very experienced people. And you can do it using this approach. You can see again that we've got user interviews happening twice, so you can do cycles. The colors are not that important. The yellow ones are kind of more planning. The purple ones are more technical. The green ones are more design. But again, what we're doing, we've brought more people into the team. So we're going to review the business challenge again. We're going to review the OKRs and since we're reviewing it a second time now, it's our opportunity to update them based on what we've learned. Going to go through the user persona and user journey again, and this time again we're updating it based on what we've learned so far. Service blueprint is, as I said, like future state business process map, or if you're familiar with that. I'm not going to go into what a service blueprint is. Feature map or is what I call user story mapping. Technical map is just drawing on whiteboard. So there's a lot of, in this time box planning, there's a lot of people who know their stuff at an expert level who are coming together and whiteboarding things. Now, ideally that would be in a room with whiteboards, but these days you can do it in virtual conference rooms using Miro and things like that. But there's a lot of drawing, a lot of visualization, a lot of coming up with things quickly based on what we know and then moving on and testing it. So day 2, we're working out what is the current state. You know, we will have invited like a subject matter expert in our current technical state in for that discussion. Then we're going to come up with a solution architecture. You know, the solution architecture is not going to be fixed. I just want to make this clear that these things are not fixed. These are, we think the solution architecture is this, let's go ahead on this basis, come up with some proof of concepts and some mock-ups, test, measure, learn, and then change our solution architecture. As you can see here, the idea is that these plans, these like a solution architecture, are more like roadmaps that are changing as we learn. Okay, so plans are not fixed. Plans are, here's what we think, let's go forward on that base, learn more and change it. So day 3, we're doing our technical proof of concept. Now that's something that would spend, you know, all day. I just put it in here as an hour simply because I kind of couldn't overlap the other things. So we're doing solution storyboards. We're doing our mock-ups. We're doing our mock-ups again on day 4. Day 5, we're doing user interviews. So we're getting in, you know, 4 or 5 customers or users. We get them in by paying them, typically, if they're external people. If they're internal, we just, you know, ask for them. And we're showing them things. We're showing them, we're saying, hey, this is our persona. This is our journey. This is our, you know, blueprint. This is our storyboard. Let's walk through it. Here's a mock-up of what we've come up with. You know, tell us what you think. Does this meet your needs or not? What's your feedback? How would you do it better? Then we're reviewing and integrating. We're not going to show our users technical mock-ups though. Second week, we're basically going back through the same thing, but now we're starting to get a bit more refined with our design. So we're going to do brand guidelines and mood boards, which is what user experience designers and UI designers need to come up with more refined visual designs and branding. But we're continuing to do our mock-ups and our technical proof of concepts so that we can learn more. Then we're going to do more user interviews on day 8. And then day 9, we're starting to bring it all together. So we just do our UX review and our feature review with our team and our stakeholders. Then we're going to estimate, do a release plan and budget. We're going to come up with recommendations, present our plan to our stakeholders and have a review. Now, this estimation, release plan and budget, this is where we are working out, well, based on what we've said we wanted to do and everything everyone has told us and our customers have told us, we can see that we have this long list of features and this user story map. We're going to estimate the business value of all those features and also technical components that are enabling them. We're going to estimate the size of them. We're going to do a release plan for them. And then we're going to do a budget. I could spend a whole hour talking about how to do that, but basically we're going to use affinity mapping. Affinity mapping is a way to estimate, you know, 100 features or requirements in an hour. You can do it quite easily. If you're not familiar with it, go and look it up. It's also called silent estimating. Maybe there's another name for it. So that's what I'm familiar with. It's quite easy to do. So we're going to estimate business value of everything. We're going to estimate the size of everything with a team of people. I go back here. Where is it? So this team has software developers, technical people, BAs, you know, so it's a team that's going to have some capability to understand the size of things. Then we ask the team to help us to estimate, you know, so the first month's worth of work, we work out what's reasonable. We work out the team we want. From that, we can work out a budget. And on day 10 in the morning, we're basically writing it all up as some sort of presentation for our stakeholders where we say, okay, here's our goals, here's our product concepts, here's what our customers and users said about it, here's our plan of things we want to do, here's some mock-ups we've tested, this is what we found out. Here's our estimate And so we need a team of 9 people for 6 months. That's what we want you to give us, and that's what we will need to achieve our goal. Now, during this process, we will be spending quite a lot of time educating our stakeholders on what it means to do an agile plan. So basically, I would be spending this time explaining to people that any plan we come up with is provisional. We'll fix the time, we'll fix the budget, but the actual features and components that are being delivered will vary based on what we learn. So in presenting this plan for funding, we're going to be saying, give us this much money or this many people, and we will achieve this goal. Here's our plan to achieve it. The plan is going to change every week or every couple of weeks, but we believe that this is enough funding and resources to achieve this goal. Okay, and having spent this last couple of weeks with our stakeholders, we will have had an opportunity to educate them on what this kind of flexible adaptive planning is like. So just to reiterate, at the end of this process, we are not promising to deliver a fixed scope in a fixed time for a fixed budget. That's completely wrong for doing anything in an agile way. What we're saying is we can achieve a goal with this budget and this time. We're confident of that, but it's not going to be exactly what's in this plan. That plan could change quite a lot by the end. If you give us this amount of time and money, we can achieve the objective. It could be done in a different way, though, than we've planned out here. All right, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so then let's assume that you get the funding you need, the approval for engaging more people. Then what we're doing here is we're growing out the team. Now you can see it's the same people. We've just gone from 3 people to 6 people. Now we're going to 9 people. So basically what we're doing here is we're adding software developers and QA. So this is a team which is, it's full-time, cross-functional. People could come from within your organizations. There'll be some people, let's say you've still got a traditional organization. Some people will be from IT, some people from UX design, some from a business unit. You may engage contractors. Maybe there's some people from, a big consulting firm that you've engaged to help you with this. Maybe there's multiple. It doesn't matter. The idea is that it's one team, cross-functional, T-shaped, multi-skilled people with specialization, all working together at the same time, focusing on achieving your goal with the customer and user at the center. Okay, so what do you do during product development? Well, I think we all know this, but now we're getting on to building things. So we prioritize the features again. We define them in more detail. We design our technical solution in detail for the features we're about to build, not for the whole thing from beginning to end. We build features, we do integration testing, acceptance testing, performance tuning. We deploy features to production. And we do it with things like WIP limits. We have testable requirements, test-driven development, behavior-driven development, infrastructure as code, and continuous delivery. So that looks like this sort of workflow. You have a team that has ideas coming in all the time, that probably a lot from within the team, as well as outside, from customers and so on. And the team has a board which works like this. So ideas are coming in, they're researching them, planning them, defining them, building them, reviewing them, delivering them, and supporting them. But they're not taking every idea all the way through to deliver and support. Only some of them make their way through. So there's a filtering process early on. And the ideas that go through this process could be product ideas, they could be marketing, content and features, they could be platform features, they could be training. This is not a team that is only doing software features. This is a team that is doing, everything needed to build and support a product. Okay, so there's no need to do sprints. You can just run a Kanban board. I actually find a combination of Scrum and Kanban very good. Let's say you get rid of the sprints and just do it continuous, but I still like to have the stand-ups and the planning sessions and the retrospectives. I think that works well, but you can choose whatever way you want to do it. Basically, the idea is you map out your workflow process, you visualize your work, you run a Kanban board with WIP limits, and you manage your work. Now, conceptually, it looks like this. You have ideas coming in, you research them. Some of them make it through to the next stage of planning, some of them don't. You plan things, you decide which of those things that you planned you want to develop, and you develop things and you've got to support it. When they're out there, you measure the results, and that feeds back in. Okay, so again, things going through this team include product features, marketing, training, platform stuff, whatever you need to do. It's a cross-functional team. And the benefits are like this. So initially, instead of spending several months planning, you can reduce your upfront project planning or product initiative planning to a few weeks. You can define an Agile initiative that can be delivered quickly and efficiently, on time and on budget. You can develop a business case based on a realistic design with realistic time and cost estimates. And that allows you to define what you want so you can evaluate and control suppliers. Now that's the initial planning, which remember, we're going to do that in 2 to 4 weeks. And then with this approach, we're going to continue doing our researching, planning and developing ideas. All of this allows us to deliver value early and often, allows us to learn quickly and respond rapidly. It puts the customer at the center of the process, so you can develop a solution that meets their needs, and allows you to test product concepts and technical solutions early to avoid expensive design mistakes later. So once again, in our continuous process, we are going to be doing this sort of thing. We are doing a bit of planning to kick off, and then after we've got over that initial, got through some of that initial planning, we're then going to continue to do research, planning, development, and support throughout. Okay, so as part of that, for example, I would expect that the product development team is meeting with real customers and users and showing them things every week. So I would book in a session, every Thursday morning or something, and arrange for customers and users to come in, and you show them new ideas you're thinking of, you show them concepts, you show them design concepts, you show them mock-ups and things that you're planning to do, you show them things that you have developed that are currently in some sort of testing, get your feedback on that. You show them things you have just completed and deployed and get your feedback. But the idea is that we are continually researching, planning, developing, and supporting. Now, the only part I haven't really talked about here is support. I'm assuming that once we've got something in the market, that the product development team that have built it also support it in a DevOps type of approach. And that's critical so that we can get feedback from users from real life to feedback that, that learning into our ongoing research, planning, and development. So it's a loop. It's like plan, do, check, act, or observe, orient, decide, and act. It's a loop. It's just that you need to start somewhere. So what I've done here, I think, is just show you what the continuous planning cycle looks like, how you would kick it off with some research, how you could time box that to get it done quickly. And I'm saying you can do it. I've done it. How you would quickly move into product planning, adding a few more people to the team, what you would do in product planning, and then how you'd move into product development. And once you're in product development, the team, I'm assuming, is ongoing. I think we all realize these days that it's better to have an ongoing product development team rather than a project team. But if you have a project team, that's fine. I would just use the same approach. And basically the project team continues until their budget has ended. Okay, I feel like I've covered a lot, but I'm going to stop sharing and allow you to ask questions. Ed, how do we want to do the Q&A?
Well, people can just speak up or type it in the chat. I added one in the chat just to start us off. Is this all or nothing framework here, Murray?
What I would say, this is very different to phased waterfall type of development. I think this is a consistent, integrated way of working. It seems to me to be, an agile way of working that combines design thinking and all that sort of stuff together into one. I mean, it works this way. I'm not really quite sure what you mean. I wouldn't have, one functional team do the research and then a different functional team do the planning and then a third functional team doing the development. The idea here is it's an integrated team.
Maury, is it fair to say this?
I think you were saying, is this an ideal approach? Yeah, this is an ideal approach. This is what I recommend people do. However, I've actually done it and it works. So, it's not theoretical.
Say that you're working for a product company and you have multiple stakeholders, like key stakeholders that have a lot of sway into the direction of the product, what gets built, what gets prioritized. How does having, say, let's just throwing numbers around, 5 different stakeholders that are like, hey, this is what's important to me, versus another stakeholder that says, no, this is what's important to me, versus another stakeholder that says, no, this is what's important to me, this is what's of value, this is what I want you to make sense of. How does that kind of, I guess, stakeholder management impact this overarching model?
Okay, so when you're doing this research and planning, you have a core team that are full-time doing the work, but that team is bringing in stakeholders into the process. And so the idea is that all the stakeholders come in, they're involved, they participate, they can hear from each other and they can influence the team to make trade-offs, they can make deals between themselves. But ultimately, a team like this needs a product sponsor, somebody in executive management who is the champion for it, and who ultimately provides the funding. And so where there's conflict between stakeholders, the team would go to them. So 2 answers. 1, we involve the stakeholders, we get them to discuss amongst each other and work, and the team facilitates trade-off discussions. And if that doesn't solve it, then the team goes to their sponsor, and it should be pretty clear what things align with the objectives and key results that they've been funded to achieve and which things are less important. So remember, we developed the OKRs with our stakeholders very early on, and we're going to be measuring what we do against our OKRs throughout. Everyone knows what an OKR is, I assume.
Yes, we may have even had some sessions on it. I can't remember. If we haven't, we should get one on here again soon. So I'm going to wrap it up because we've come to time of a couple of people dropping off because they have to go and do their other stuff.
I can stay on for a bit, Ed.
Anyone is welcome to stay on if you want to ask more questions to Murray. But yeah, just for now, I'll say thanks to everyone. And if you have to run off, thanks for coming along. Go check the website, the recording, all that type of stuff, future sessions. Go and find Murray on LinkedIn. He's got a podcast, a book, all that type of stuff. So great.
Yes. The No Nonsense Agile podcast, isn't it?